closer. All right, we got 1 minute till we'll start talking tortoises. Give everybody a chance to jump on. Welcome, Bradley Davis. Thank you for being our first viewer. Oh, and Mary Ricosi, thank you. We'll watch for the first comment, give them a shout out. In the meantime, while everybody's tuning in today to learn the difference between tortoises and turtles, we're going to do a nice quick shout out and thank you to everybody who has supported by using the virtual tip jar. A number of you have been helping out, and all those definitely help feed these animals, and it all goes towards keeping us going, doing what we're doing. So we do appreciate that. Also, thank you for tuning in. I know a lot of you were really wanting to see live shows this last month and the upcoming who knows how long. And hopefully everything will end up getting back to where you can attend a live Wildman Phil show again at some point. But until then, we'll keep doing it virtually like we are here. So with that being said, let's go ahead and, oh, look, it's 11 o'clock. So, oh, even William say hi. First comment. So thank you very much. You can pop up with that kind of thing anytime. I'm standing right ahead. Let's go ahead and talk tortoises and turtles. So we're looking at a tortoise here. Of course, the big question we get is, wait, aren't turtles tortoises and tortoises turtles and all of that? Well, actually, technically, there's some differences, and there's a few different levels. All the what we call chelonians are your turtles and tortoises, which include sea turtles, terrapins, box turtles, land tortoises, and everything. Basically, yes, a tortoise is a land turtle. But, of course, sea turtle is one that lives on the sea. But even the sea turtle comes up onto the land to lay its eggs. But it eats seaweed, and it lives in its whole life in the ocean. A tortoise, on the other hand, is going to live his whole life on the land. And, in fact, some tortoises can't even swim. And, of course, that doesn't work out well if you try to go into water. But there are a few noticeable differences. So we have a good example here. This particular tortoise is an African spurred tortoise. Some people know it as a sulcata. That's the genus that it is. So the species that it is. This is one of the largest types of tortoises on the planet. Depending on which one you look at, it's either number 2 or 3 on the list. The Galapagos being the largest of the tortoises, and the Aldabras being a little bit bigger sometimes than the sulcatas. But in any case, let's take a look at a turtle. Let me grab a turtle. I happen to have a pool of turtles here. And if we put them side by side, you can see it's very easy. Tortoises are bigger. No, that's not always the case, all right? This is a very typical type of turtle. And that turtle, you want some more of that, don't you? He's like, I'm looking around. I heard you say there's some more to eat. The turtle, this is a good example. This is a very typical turtle a lot of people have seen and heard of, called a red-eared slider. This one's more of an orange-eared slider. But you'll see they have this red stripe on the ear. Yeah, no, so he's like, that's not food. No. Yeah. And, of course, he's wet because he was in water. Looking at the face, yeah, you can kind of see a difference there. Let me... I'm going to back our tortoise up here just a bit so we can talk. There we go, buddy. And there's that. Okay. We'll let him eat while we talk turtle here. Turtles like this is technically a terrapin. We call it a turtle because it does live in and around water and prefers to be in water. Now, being a reptile, they're what we call ectothermic, so their body temperature is the same as the air around them. So they'll come out onto the land and warm up when the sun is out. They'll go into the water when the temperatures are right. If it gets too cold, they get too slow. They don't use a lot of energy. And a lot of turtles will spend the winter time down underwater where they can slow down a lot and not use up their energy. But they are made for swimming. And if this guy was to stick his feet out here, you look closely and, well, it kind of looks the same there until his toes come apart. Then he has, I don't know if we can see it here. Let's see, they're sticking this one out for you. He has paddles. He has webbed feet that are great for paddling. and for swimming, and that's exactly what it is that he used them for. But he also has claws. These claws are for digging. The back ones they use for digging holes to lay their eggs in the ground. They also use these to dig into the ground sometimes, some turtles more than others. But one of the differences too between the, well, let's look at the feet of the tortoise. That one we can see pretty close. He's got armor-plated legs. He's got these big claws. Those are for digging. These guys live in burrows in the ground, and they use their feet to dig those holes. If we look at the back legs over here, it looks like a little elephant's foot, not a swimming foot. And of course, that's because he spends his time on the land. This guy lives in the deserts of Africa, and he digs a hole in the ground rather than going to the water hole like a zebra or a gnu, wildebeest, some you know it as, or whatever, all these animals that go to the water hole during the summer. This guy's like, hey, I can't swim anyway. Well, he can kind of doggy paddle a little bit, but he digs a hole in the ground, and these holes can be pretty good size. In fact, let's talk about that for just a second. I'm going to put this guy in here. We'll watch him swim. We got a bunch of his friends in here. By the way, this is not where these guys live. We put these guys in just today so you can see what a herd of turtles looks like. In any case, you can see them all just swimming around, loving it. Some of them underwater, some of them coming up, getting some air and getting scared back in the water. But this is where they're going to live, and they use that water for their protection. But let's walk over here real quick. We see another little tortoise right over this way. This tortoise, you can see, has some dirt on his back. That's because he lives in a hole. And you can kind of see down into that hole a little bit there. Now, that hole might be 15, 20, maybe even 30 feet deep. And our tortoises that we have a few different holes around the yard. This guy's just coming out, starting to get a little sun, trying to warm up a bit. And of course, at night, he'll go back down in that hole. Now, when it gets really hot here in the summertime, this guy will come out early in the morning, and then when it gets too hot, he'll go back down in and spend the hot part of the day in the ground. It's called estivating. It's what all us Arizonans and desert dwellers do when it gets too hot to be outside. Of course, he doesn't have an Xbox or play Minecraft or watch YouTube, or he can't even enjoy Facebook like we do while we're stuck indoors. But he'll do that during the hot part of the day, come back out in the evening when it cools down. During the winter time, he'll spend sometimes days at a time down in there where it's nice, a little warmer, not too cold. But let's head back over to this direction. Oh, our tortoise has left us for a minute, so we'll go ahead and look at the turtles here. And these turtles, as you can just kind of watch, they like to move around and swim. And yes, right now they're a little bit trapped. They can't get out. But normally out in the wild and even in their enclosure, they have places they can get out of the water so they can sun. They can get in and out as if they want. They have places they can hide underwater and above water and so on. Most all of these are those red-eared sliders, and you can see that nice prominent red mark on their ear area, if you will. Now, one of the biggest differences between most turtles and tortoises is that generally tortoises are herbivores. They're plant eaters. And the turtles are usually carnivores, so they're going to be eating meat. Now, in the wild, the tortoise is going to walk around. He's going to eat things like leaves and flowers and cactus and grass. The turtle, on the other hand, is going to live around the water. He's going to eat fish and water bugs. He's going to eat frogs and snakes and things like that. Any of these meat animals. So to give you an idea of kind of how that works, I did bring a little bit of meat. Got some chicken here. This is chicken that we do want to say thank you to the Big House Cafe in Casa Grande, Arizona, for donating the meat for some of our animals, especially during this time. So I suggest if you guys are looking for a place to get some to go, unfortunately you can't go inside, really good food at the Big House Cafe. The chicken that we have today, we do thank them for that. So we'll just throw a little piece, see if anybody, you'll notice they'll want to smell that to know what it is. And once they come up and they're all worried about moving around now, we'll see if anybody wants a piece of chicken. And of course, you know, when you're shooting live video, nobody wants to do what they're supposed to. So, anybody want a little piece of chicken there? All right. Now, Oh, they're smelling it. There's a little chicken going there. Oh, we're going to end up with a feeding frenzy here. Look, everybody smells the chicken. And one of the interesting things about turtles is that their claws on their feet are kind of like their teeth. They'll use that to tear their food up. They don't have teeth inside. It's more like a beak, like a bird would have. So some turtles, especially like the snapping turtles, lots of power and a very pointed beak. But these guys can bite into that and then use their legs, you can see that, to kind of tear that apart. Luckily, Big House has a lot of chicken they donated, so we'll throw some more in there, see if anybody else wants it. And everybody can fight over the, he's like, I'll just cover for you while you eat in private there, buddy. Oh, he's like, there's meat. And this guy, we'll see if you'll see them use it. They're swimming around over here. They'll end up tearing that piece apart. Let's see if we can get a few of our other tortoises. We've got like 20-something tortoises. We'll see if we can get a feeding frenzy from the tortoises as well. And looks like we're not getting a lot of questions. I must be doing a good job of just covering everything for you today. I would like to talk a little bit about the parts of them while you're watching these guys kind of have their little feeding frenzy here. The top part of the turtle, there we go, called the carapace, and this is very hard. This has scales. Each one of these shapes that you see here is a large scale, kind of like a fingernail, that covers their body. They have a bone under there, so the skeleton of a turtle basically looks like a helmet with a plastron, a bottom. And this is the bottom part. This is also just as hard, so an animal can't bite through that. And of course, most of us know turtles travel with their home with them everywhere. Very, very good thing to be. Now these guys, if something does come after them, they'll pull their head inside. They can't close it up really, but if they were to open their mouth, let me see, I don't know if I have one that has an attitude. Some have more attitudes than others. Yeah, you can see a little mouth going there. So let's say a raccoon's trying to eat this guy. He pulls his mouth into here, or his head into there, opens his mouth, ends up with a raccoon gets a nose full of mouth. Doesn't work so well. But we'll put you back in there. Hey, let's throw you guys another piece of meat. How's that for being so good? There we go.
Mitzi asks, how long can turtles stay underwater?
Very good question. It depends on the turtle. It depends on temperatures and so on. But generally, a turtle can stay underwater for about an hour. And I know that doesn't narrow it down a whole lot, but it's not days and days, although sometimes they do stay underwater, sometimes for over a day, as their body temperature slow down in cold conditions and stuff. We're going to go ahead, and as we're pulling some of these tortoises over here, we'll just go ahead and put a little food out for them, because tortoises, of course, they like things like lettuce, apples. We got a plum in here. And we'll see if anybody has, oh look, even some grapes today. And let's go ahead. I think there's a nectarine. So they like fruit, they like vegetables. You'll see they live where there's a lot of grass here. And let's see, you want a little bit of that too?
Matthew,
they walk around eating grass a lot. Yes, question?
Matthew is asking how many different types of species of turtles and tortoises are there?
I should know an exact number on that. As far as chelonians go, all your turtles and tortoises, there's a lot. I don't know that. That's your homework. We'll look for Matthew to look that up, Google it, and then post it on there. If everybody does that, you probably might end up with a few different numbers, actually. One of the fun things, really, I'll be nice, help you guys out here a bit. Got my sog apple peeler here. It's a little bit easier for them to get a bite of something that's not round. So we'll help you out there. How's that? See, he likes that. We'll do the same thing here. Let's see if...
Nicole's asking how long they live.
Oh, very good question. Turtles and tortoises are very, very long-lived. They will usually live upwards to and over 100 years old. And that's a long time, let's be honest. An African spurred tortoise here will live over 120 years, maybe 150. Even these other turtles, the red-eared sliders, will live that long. I happen to know of another turtle that's kind of in between these two that I'll talk about real quickly. One that's a turtle, but a tortoise. That's the box turtle. You see, the box turtle is one that looks kind of like a tortoise. He's got feet like a tortoise, more so than a turtle. and he lives on the ground, but he lives around water. And box turtles, they actually are swimmers, but let's see what he does. He doesn't go underneath to swim around. He just doggy paddles across the top, and that's how he gets along. But if he sees something he wants to eat underwater, he can go under, grab it very quickly, but he's not going to hold his breath for a really long time and spend most of his time under the water. But the box turtle got its name because its defense is it can close up like a box. Now this guy's used to people. He might not do it for us, but he can actually, when he wants to, pull himself in, and then he has what's called a hinged shell. There's a hinge right here, and that moves. So he can actually close himself up like a box and just push himself all the way. Oh, and he can also close the back up. So now this guy's a little overweight. He's in captivity. So sometimes when he pushes this in, it pushes that out and so on. But that hinge shell makes it be able to close up like a box. Now, I have no idea how old this particular eastern box turtle is, but I do happen to know that a particular box turtle in Nebraska was actually, or maybe it was Wyoming. I think it was Nebraska. Anyway, one of the two. I was at a school, and they had a box turtle that they knew was at least 50 years old. He looked just like this. And you're looking at it going, wow, that thing's that old. I mean, they all look like an old man, let's be honest. So, but they had it years ago. Somebody brought it into one of the elementary school classrooms, and the teacher kept that. And she had that for 35 years in that classroom, and then she retired. And the next teacher that took over after her still kept the turtle in there, and she had been there for 20 years whenever I met them, and met that really old turtle that looked just as spry and cute as it did when it was young. But the box turtle is only one that has that hinge shell. There's actually a turtle that we have in Arizona called the mud turtle, and you probably figured he likes to hide in the mud at the bottom of lakes and rivers. He's a double hinge, so he has a hinge here and a hinge here. And these makes to where he can fold himself up completely tight on both sides. And there you go. No animal can get to that guy. He's tucked away safely. We got a question though.
Melanie's asking, how much do tortoises weigh?
Well, it depends on the tortoise. Our native desert tortoises here, a 10-pounder's big. But these big African spurred tortoises can actually get to weigh a few 100 pounds. What you're looking at here is the largest one here. He's haven't particularly weighed this exact one recently. Last time we weighed him, he was about 85 pounds. So you're looking at about that. These ones over here, you're actually looking at some of these that'll weigh 15, 20, 30 pounds, somewhere in there. So they do get to be very, very heavy, which is actually pretty amazing when you realize they live on land. Because some turtles, like the big sea turtles, will weigh a few 100 pounds because they're this big and they live in the water, so they have a lot of water in them. Big snapping turtles, alligator snapping turtles that weigh over 100 pounds. A lot of that is what we'll call water weight, and you don't, it doesn't affect you when you're in the water. But these guys, impressive, and how strong they are being able to carry that weight is amazing. Another question.
Patricia asks, do turtles have parasites harmful to humans?
Do turtles have parasites harmful to humans? Not usually. With reptiles, there's very few parasites that actually can be transferred to humans. Usually it's more the other way around. Something that's not hurting us, we can give to them. And one of those is actually a disease, not a parasite, but something that affected our wild tortoise populations in the southwest United States about 40 years ago. And that was where people were keeping them as pets, and then the pet would end up back out in the wild. Maybe it outlived the owner, and maybe it dug out, or for whatever reason it got back out into the wild. And what happened was, when they were around people, our native desert tortoises can get an upper respiratory infection from the people. And they took that out into the wild population, and a lot of them ended up dying. Because as a pet, if my tortoise gets a respiratory problem, I can take it to a vet, and a vet can fix it. But out in the wild, the tortoise can't go knocking on the door of the vet and be like, hey, I'm not feeling good, what can you do for me? And so a lot of our native tortoises died off because of that. In fact, that's one of the reasons now that it's actually against the law to mess with or get a tortoise out of the wild. But generally, as pets go, if you're keeping one as a pet or something, it's not something that you have to worry about getting anything from them, except like a lot of animals, yes, you can end up getting some diseases, but that's a whole other thing. We won't get into that, okay? Yes.
Jessica's asking, how can you tell the gender of turtles and tortoises?
All right, very good question. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. So to show you that, I'm going to throw another one of these out. We're going to see what we have here in this collection, and then we'll maybe check a turtle and I'll show you. So, tortoises here. We're going to go ahead. Hey, buddy, I know you're not going to like this a whole lot, but I'm going to flip you over, show everybody the bottom. You see this big concave area here? This is a male. The males have this concave area. This happens to fit on the back of a female shell, about like so. The males will have this. This is true of most all tortoises in the world. Not all, but most of them. That's probably the easiest way. Well, I say easiest. You got to flip an 85-pound tortoise to check his underside. There you go, buddy. Now, to show you a little bit different, let's see what we have. Maybe we have all males. Let's see. We have, nope, look at that. We do have a female. So the female tortoise here, see how it's nice and smooth, and it has dirt. Now, one of the things with the African spurred tortoises, that even when they're younger, before because they're all born with a nice small, a nice flat shell when they're babies, but as they grow, this will end up becoming concave in the males. But the shell right here, the bottom of the plastron where the tail is, the females have a small tail, the males have a long one, and they have a little bit bigger opening here because they have to lay eggs through that. Whereas the males, you may notice, was a little bit different shape. And when you hold them around, we talked about it with other animals, peeing makes it work to where you let go of them. So let's go ahead and look at one of these turtles real quick. And no matter which ones we pick up, we're not going to be able to see a concave part. So let's look there. Oh, maybe another female, maybe? Oh, let's look here. What do we got? Oh, still nice and flat, but there are ways to tell. It's just really hard. In a lot of species of turtles, the males will have a longer tail. It's actually a little bit shorter tail, but a longer parted tail. We won't get that deep today. But in other words, you don't really know. So you get these guys, you put them together, and then, well, you find out later when you have eggs being laid. I'm going to throw a little bit more meat in here. I want you guys to watch these guys have their little feeding frenzy. Again, anybody else want? Here, you want some here? There you go. Not so much? Oh, there we go. Feeding frenzy over there. Go ahead and watch that for a minute. Oh, we have another question.
Nicole's asking, what could break a tortoise's shell?
Oh, very good question. What could break a tortoise's shell? A fall could, if they're very heavy. So in the wild, not many things. But if you had one and it maybe walked off your patio and fell, that could break it. Getting hit by a car, something like that, I think would be an obvious answer there. But I also know some stories of somebody who accidentally hit a tortoise with their car and it didn't break the shell. They are very, very strong. There are some animals that can bite through the shells. Even these guys here that have these real hard shells, an alligator, a crocodile, they have such powerful bites that they can actually break that open. Most animals that are their predators are not going to be able to, but that's because they're not going to worry about breaking the shell. They're going to try and go after the shell or the head inside the shell, if you will. It's definitely something that helps them, though. Another question.
Moses wants to know, how fast can tortoises run?
How fast can tortoises run? I'm taking that as a challenge, Mr. Moses. I tell you what, let's walk over this way and see if we can get a tortoise to do just that. These guys are a little full, but when you have as many tortoises as we do, let's go ahead and let's move the camera over here. We'll make him run this way. See if we can get him to run. I don't know if he's even hungry enough to come after the food. You ready? Oh, yeah. And, almost top speed. This one's a little shy, as you can see. This may not be our fastest tortoise out here. The best way to get him to run is to have him chasing another tortoise for whatever reason. A little more. Not up to running yet. It's not that good of a piece of lettuce, huh? Oh, maybe I should have used an apple or a strawberry. These guys, they really love the fruit. Well, there you go. Did you see his sprint? Maybe you'll have to watch this again later because it was just a short sprint. Actually, he's not very fast. They can actually move a little faster than that. Let's see if this will help at all. Gonna come over and see some of that? Not gonna run? It's like, hey man, I'm not your athletic tortoise. Yeah, I can tell. I love that look. I don't know if we can get the camera down to see how high off the ground it is and how his feet are. When he walks on those front claws, which is always keeping them from getting too sharp and too long. They need them short and strong to dig their holes, so when they walk, they stand on those, and that keeps them to where they're always being whittled down, if you will. And that's almost a sprint there. Let's see. There we go. I knew we'd get him to run eventually. Yep, there you go. That was a good little run. Yeah, now you get the reward at the end. But let's go see what a turtle can do. Turtles are actually a little bit faster, if not a lot more awkward at running. Not near as good as they are at swimming, but let's see if we've got one maybe here. Let's put him on the ground, see if he wants to move. Now, of course, normally taking him out, putting him on the ground, his first thought isn't, I'm going to run away. His first thought is, hey, I want to hide so nothing can eat me. An animal like a raccoon or a possum or something maybe gets this guy out. He wants to close up because they can bite, grab his head, and eat him. But let's see if we can get him to mosey that way a little. Watch him run. By the way, I know what you're thinking, and Moses maybe was thinking this. You had the tortoise and the hare, right? Rabbits are way faster, especially for short distances, than the tortoise. This guy's good at going in circles. Now he's trying to figure out where to go. I don't know if I can get him to run if I scare him. Usually that makes him close up. Hey, want to run? Gonna run? Not really. Okay. Not so much today. Now, one of the things when an animal tries to eat is a lot of times they close up and they'll tilt their body towards the animal so they have more shell than anything. We'll see if that guy wants to move. But we have another question while we're waiting.
Kim wants to know, do you have to trim their claws or nails?
I don't have to. Sometimes we do, especially when I'm doing shows. Sometimes my turtles will get a little bit longer claws. Don't have to with the tortoises at all because they're always doing that themselves. But the turtles, you'll notice they have really long claws. And in their environment of living, they're not always hitting them on rocks and filing them down, if you will. So sometimes when I use them for shows and things, I will trim them because they can cut me open. Another question.
Nicole also wants to know, do turtles only eat meat?
Mostly, yes. Now, they will occasionally. They're not 100% carnivorous. So even these guys here that are fighting over this chicken, they're still fighting over a little piece over here. These guys, they will eat plants sometimes, especially fruits and things, but usually it's stuff around the water. So they'll eat the lilies and things like that occasionally, but their main food is going to be bugs and fish and things like that. So any other question coming in? All right, well, one thing, keep the questions coming. We love them. While you're looking at these and you're thinking, oh, these tortoises might be a little on the cute side, and we talked a little bit about the tortoise's life. I love these guys. This is going to get close up down in there. Oh, we got another question while we're watching these guys enjoy a little midday snack.
Grant wants to know, how many times a day do you have to feed tortoises and turtles?
Okay, usually once a day is sufficient, but this is one of those things that depends on the situation. We try to keep our turtles and tortoises in a natural environment most of the time. So you'll notice where they were living here with the grass, I never have to mow the grass. I've got 20 tortoises out here keeping them nice and short. We do supplement them by putting other foods out. Variety is the key. That's why they've got fruits and vegetables and things now. But there's also, you know, if you have them in captivity, especially as a baby, then you're going to want to feed them. Usually put a bunch of food in during the day and then let them eat what they can. And then anything left over you take out, and then you figure out how much you're eating each day. But you can feed them once a day. Turtles, usually about the same. We'll come out, we'll throw some food in with the turtles, but they're also eating bugs that get into the water and stuff. So, another question.
Mitzi's asking, how long do the eggs take to hatch?
Very good question. Thank you, Mitzi. So, depending on the type of turtle or tortoise, usually you're looking at a couple of months of them being in the ground. While we're talking about that, let's talk about tortoise eggs. these are the sulcatas. This is the male. A female about that size will be laying eggs. And these eggs right here, I don't know if we can all see those. These are the tortoise eggs. So you look at one of these guys here, and this turns into that. Yeah, that's just amazing. So they usually lay about 20 or 30 eggs. They dig a hole in the ground. They look kind of like ping pong balls, I think. In fact, that one is a ping pong ball. Yeah, I just put it in to see if you could tell. But these little ping pong balls are laid into the ground, and then after about 2 months, the tortoises hatch out, and they just know to come crawling up out of the ground. That was a cool little magic trick, wasn't it? Yeah. So here's our cute little baby tortoise. I don't know how close we can get to that guy, but let's see if he wants to try and join in on the feeding frenzy. He doesn't know about the feeding frenzy. He knows about the big giant things over here, but he's kind of cute. Here, I tell you what, let's have a little tortoise race. One of them, this one here, doesn't like to move a whole lot. This one obviously likes to move quite a bit. So these are actually baby African spurred tortoises. The same exact tortoises you're looking at here. It's just these are the babies. And this is where people get into trouble sometimes. People see this cute little baby tortoise and they think to themselves, hey, I want to get one of these. They're so cute. I can leave him in a little tank and he'll grow up. And then within about 10 years, you got something like this. And you have to put him out in the yard. Hopefully you have one. And he digs a hole that a human can fit in. And then your whole house is, you know, cracking under the with a hole under it. And it's just a mess. But this is something that I want people to understand. You see this cute little tortoise. If you decide you want one, make sure you understand you're going to have this the rest of your life. Actually, your great-great-grandkids will probably have it through their life, because he's going to live 100 to 150 years, and he's going to very quickly turn into something like that. This guy, by the way, is really good at showing how the tortoises will pull their face in, because their protection is doing that. I might be able to get one of these bigger ones to do that as well. Let's see if he will. Those armor-plated legs are to protect him. So, let's see. I don't know if this big guy will. Maybe that guy over there. Hey, you going to pull your head in and show him? Say, no, I'm eating. There we go. Poke him on the nose. There you go. Look at that face. What face? His face is tucked in. There we go, that face. But these armor-plated legs cover right in front of that. Oh, wait a minute. Anybody notice this big thing sticking out here? Yeah, it's called a gular horn. And the males usually have a lot more prominent horn. They use that to fight with other males. Especially when they come across a female that they think should lay their eggs, then they start fighting over. And a lot of times as they fight, one of the tortoises will get flipped over onto his back. Well, once he's flipped onto his back, he can't go anywhere. Well, he can. He can actually kick around and end up flipping himself back over in most situations. But what if he ends up in a situation where there's a rock or something and he can't? And it's the middle of the summer and it gets 120 degrees out, he ends up cooking and dying. But the good news is tortoises are usually pretty friendly, and a lot of times if they come across one that's been flipped over, either by another tortoise or by another animal, they'll actually flip each other back over. Oh, here's a tortoise running for you, Moses. He's running away, right past some tortoise poop. Oh, watch out for our... Okay. Let's see. What we got another question though.
Nicole wants to know, how hard can a tortoise bite?
Very hard. They don't purposely bite usually, but let's say you're a little person going, hey, looky here, and he wants to eat some of that, and then he misses and all of a sudden bites down on your finger. It's enough that it will actually bleed. Now, some of these turtles, they have a little bit more bite force. They're usually biting into meat and things. And I don't think any of these guys really are trying to give us an attitude. But out in the wild, these guys will. And they can bite pretty hard. Luckily, I'm not going to show you that today.
Miles wants to know if people eat turtle eggs.
People do eat turtle eggs. People actually eat turtles. There's a lot of people, not just animals, that do eat those. The turtle eggs are edible. I don't know. I've never eaten a turtle egg. I don't really know. You know, making a turtle egg omelet might be tasty, I suppose. I don't know.
Sherry wants to know, do turtles eat fish?
Yes, turtles do eat fish. And I'll tell you, one of the funnest things that we could have done today, but it's almost so downright mean, is having them try and chase fish instead of chicken. So if I was to put some minnows in here, and there are a bunch of them swimming around, these guys will chase down the minnows, and the minnows are usually a lot faster. So what they'll do is they'll hide down in there and wait for something to come close and then grab it and eat it. Some turtles, like the snapping turtles, they actually are great ambush predators, sitting there waiting for a fish to come by and then eat those as well. But we're going to do an episode on snapping turtles all on their own. I think next week or maybe the next week. It's on the schedule, and we'll definitely talk about that and show how that works.
Shay wants to know, how fast can a turtle swim?
It depends on the turtle. Sea turtles can swim pretty fast. We're talking 30, 40 miles an hour. These guys here, I don't know. Maybe I'll get me a radar gun sometime and see what happens. But they're pretty fast. I've chased turtles out in the wild, and they're a lot faster swimming than I am. I have had some that I'm able to run through, fairly shallow water and get to them faster than they can swim away. But generally, they're swimming very, very fast. A very good question.
Lillian also wants to know, do desert tortoises live as long as sulcatas?
Yes, desert tortoises will live 100 years as well. Most of your tortoises, whether it's Russians or Greeks or pancake tortoises or all these leopard tortoises, a lot of them, generally they're going to live a very, very long time, around 100 years.
Jen's asking, are the baby tortoises hatched with a hard shell?
Oh, very good question. Yes. So the eggs, which we had out, actually I mentioned that it looks like. Let me pick up. I think I picked one up. Let me see those again real quick. Let's talk about the baby tortoise here. And see, that's a very good question, because what a lot of people don't know is that a lot of reptiles have leathery eggs. They don't have hard-shelled eggs like birds have. But yes, the tortoises do have a hard-shelled egg. This is, you can see a piece of that breaks right off of there. It's just like a chicken egg, not quite as thick, but like any bird egg. And so what would happen is these guys would actually break out of that shell and crawl out. Now, some reptiles actually have leathery eggs, and that's a little bit different. Maybe we'll talk about that when we get into snakes that lay eggs, because they're going to have leathery. Most lizards that lay eggs have a leathery, soft-shelled egg. So, we have another question.
Nicole's asking, how many eggs can they lay?
It depends on the turtle or tortoise. Generally, a rule of thumb, if you will, is about 20, but there's some that don't lay that many. There's some that lay a little bit more.
What do the turtles eat besides meat?
They'll eat leaves, fruits, things like that. That's what the turtles will eat, other than meat. And of course, by meat, out in the wild, we're talking, bugs, we're talking snakes, we're talking fish, that sort of thing. So, okay. All right. Well, these guys, this is kind of fun. See if you can see this going on here. He's like, I'll hold that. You get a little bite. Maybe. There we go. I'll help you with that. And I'll take it from you. Thank you very much. And now, I thought he was going to show you how they use their feet kind of as claws as well. There you go. That's not quite ripe nectarine right there. Usually that's a little bit easier for them to eat. And one of the things I do want to mention, because I know a lot of people like tortoises as pets, some things to keep in mind. Try to make sure your enclosure is kept clean. We have an issue even that here. We have a big windstorm come in, and we have a piece of paper, plastic bag, a Nerf football, whatever, blow into the yard. These guys look at something like that and they go, oh, it looks like food, and they'll eat it. Usually it doesn't hurt them, even if they eat paper or plastic. It just goes right through them without injuring them, but they could end up choking on it in some cases. We've never had that happen, but I've heard of some that have. So do be careful and understand these guys will just try anything. But, looks like we have one more question.
Xander wants to know if turtles eat other turtles.
Yes, turtles will eat other turtles, and that is definitely something that we will cover with snapping turtles, because one of their favorite foods is other turtles. So that does happen occasionally. Not something normally with tortoises, because, well, they're vegetarians. So with that being said, let's throw our last pieces of meat in here. Thanks again to Big House Cafe for donating some of this chicken to us to help our animals eat. And if you are in the Casa Grande area, I do want to go ahead and throw out to you as well, because they were so helpful to us. Big House Cafe also has another sister restaurant, the CGQ House. It's a barbecue place, and they have a really good menu. In fact, they have a sandwich that is unbelievable. It's called the Wild Man Phil. Yeah, pulled pork sandwich with some onions and peppers, and oh, it's delicious. I might be a little partial to it, obviously, but seriously, be sure to check that out and show your support over there as well if you're in the Casa Grande area. For everybody else watching elsewhere, though, we do want to thank you guys for watching. Hopefully, you learned a lot about turtles and tortoises today and the differences between them. One lives generally in water, one generally on land. The land ones are generally eating plants. The water ones are generally eating meat. They're built for swimming, they're built for digging, and they all have hard shells. And of course, a lot of 4 legs and other similarities. But without going too deep, we thank you for joining in today. If you did miss any of the previous Better Than a Classroom edutainment sessions, they are still on the Facebook page here. Go back, watch those. We do this every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Tomorrow, we're going to go into the creepy realm, spiders. Yeah. By request, we had people wanting to know about spiders. We're going to talk spiders tomorrow. So be ready to look away if you can't handle those very strange, creepy things that have way too many legs and the webbing that really is just not right. It's invisible and hits you in the face. But we're going to talk spiders tomorrow. Then we'll take a couple days off so y'all can go out in the wild, look for stuff yourself away from others. And then we'll be back Monday at 11 o'clock. Also, if you are liking this sort of thing, one of my good friends, he's got a show that's on right an hour before us, actually, at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Coyote Peterson, the Brave Wilderness channel, on their YouTube channel, they have live. The only way you can catch theirs is to watch that live, so be sure and check them out. Wonderful guys. They do a lot of great stuff as well. So if you once again, also thank everybody for the virtual tips. We'll put the information in the comments here. If you like to Zelle and you want to throw some money at us, feel free to do that. The Zelle is payment@wildmanphil.com. Venmo is wildmanphil, all one word, but with a capital W and a capital P. And then also, if you PayPal, that is presentations@desertwildlife.net. So we'll put all those in the comments. Thanks again. I hope everybody enjoyed this. Hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow while we talk spiders.